before we formed CRTV and then merged with the Blaze, pardon me, I was with Salem Radio Network. And I was there with Dennis Prager and Michael Medved. Larry Elder had just come in to replace Bill Bennett, who retired. Ben Shapiro. We were the Hugh Hewitt. We were the Salem lineup. I was the final show. When they brought us all out in January of my first year there, they brought us out to a 5-star hotel on the beach in Santa Monica to meet all of the division heads, all the general managers of the stations across the country. And at least that's what I thought. And that was most of the event, Daniel. The very first thing they had us do, though, is they brought us into a room to a ballroom at this hotel and get debriefed by Sean Spicer, who was then the Grover Dill of Reince Priebus's RNC, to be debriefed by Sean Spicer on how to basically shill for the Republican Party. I got up and walked out. And then they wanted to assign us to each have, or for us to join weekly conference calls with Kevin McCarthy. I think he was minority whip then, or majority whip then, or something like that. Okay,
yep.
But we were to do weekly conference calls with Kevin McCarthy to get basically downloaded talking points to relay to the audience. Can you guess, Daniel, how many of those mandatory conference calls with Kevin McCarthy I attended? Can you guess?
Steve, I couldn't picture you in an audience listening to that.
0. You're exactly correct. 0 is the answer. I did send my assistant, Todd. I put him on the first one just in case we're getting behind the scenes breaking news that my audience should have, or maybe I should have, to form a more educated opinion. Just in case I was wrong and my instincts weren't right about what it was, I had Todd do the first one. He came back and reported to me, yeah, it's just a suck session. There's no point to it. So I never did any of them. Now, I bring those instances up, and I've talked about them on my own show before, because they illustrate that I have experience with things that I'm not just sitting here in Iowa in my man cave, just lobbing grenades. I mean, I do that. Okay. But, I have personal experience with many of the things that I pontificate on, having worked in this industry, because it's not a movement. It is an industry. Having worked in this industry from school board elections in Des Moines, Iowa, to strategist on, presidential campaigns for Ted Cruz, I've seen a few things, man, as the song goes. I've seen a few things. And here's the main thing that I have seen more than anything else. There are two things here that are at play. The Republican Party is controlled opposition, but more so, it is an incumbent protection racket, and its entire stratagem is devised around never letting its base know what the people they voted for really believe. This is true at the local level, at the state level, at the federal level. You never know. And so all the same things are said about all the same people: Mitt Romney, John McCain, Donald Trump, Ronald Reagan, George Bush, George W. Bush. They're all saving America. They're all pro-life. They're all immigration hawks. They all hate crime. They're all the same. All the talking points are the same. Never change, because it's devised for you to never know who it is you're really voting for. That's number one, to keep you in the dark, to keep you ignorant. And so that feeds into number two. This system that we're a part in. It's not a movement. Maybe it was in 1975 at the first CPAC when Ronald Reagan gave his famous pastels or bold colors, not pastels speech. Maybe it was. Maybe it was when Ronald Reagan said, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. Okay. And maybe MAGA was a movement for 5 minutes when Trump started chanting, drain the swamp, lock her up, and build a wall. Maybe there's been flashes of it. The Tea Party was a movement for about 6 months, and then the grift began. All right. Because in the end, the dog returns to its own vomit. And I know you get that reference.
Which is the GOP.
Yeah. And yes. And what is the vomit? This is an industry that is an access-based industry. It is not a political organism. All right. And that's why our people falsely believe that this is about compromise, cutting deals, having a seat at the table. How many deals has the other side cut? How many grand bargains has the other side cut? How many times, how many dinos do you know? When was the last time you went to LPAC, to hear the true heart and soul of the Democratic Party? None of these things exist because they're an actual political party. They are a vehicle for the principles of the people they represent, period. And that's what they advance, and that's what they do. And they
Steve,
understand that.
I on that point, I marvel at Kirsten Sinema. So you would say that's the weakest link, right, of the Democrat Party.
She's chairing committees, man. She's presiding over the Senate. She was like president pro temp or something yesterday.
No, but worse than that. Not only is she not like a conduit to, for us to undermine them, it's the opposite. She's being used to negotiate with Tom Tillis to get amnesty. Like, their weakest link is stronger than our strongest link.
Yes. I mean, go look at the Liberty scores of Democrats in red states and see how terrible they are. And then go look at the Liberty scores of Republicans in red states and see how terrible they are. Okay. I mean, name one good politician South Carolina sent to Washington. I'll wait. That's one of the reddest states in the union. Utah is the most Republican state in the union. Its governor is a pedo groomer simp, and its senator is Mitt Romney. And you only got Mike Lee because they did that via nominating convention. He could have never won a statewide election in a primary in that state. All right. That's the most Republican state in the friggin' union.